Yeah. Yeah.
My name is Melissa, and we are making this piece for Zoe. I guess I was kind of a goody two-shoes just from the beginning. Like, my parents raised my sister and I in a way that was always try your best at everything and don't second guess yourself.
When we went to parent-teacher conferences, they'd always be like, well, you really didn't have to show up, everything's great.
She wasn't the talkative one. When she'd come home, we would ask her at the dinner table how school was, but she was
Didn't get a lot
girl
out of
of
her.
few words, yeah.
Yeah, she's an animal lover.
Remember with the kitties outside? Oh, so cute.
Oh,
She'd
yeah.
follow them around.
I didn't have any boyfriends, which didn't bother me at the time, and it still doesn't bother me now.
She made friends easily, though.
But I just really threw myself into school. When I got to college, I went into it with a very open mind, that everything was just kind of going by the book. Looking back now, I think I just started to miss out on the college life. So I kind of branched out a little bit. I started to party a little bit more. When all of a sudden this guy came along, we went on a few dates and it turned into a relationship. It was kind of cool. It was a breath of fresh air for me. My parents raised me in a way that was according to the Catholic values. No sex until marriage. They pounded that into my head. Then when I was in this relationship, one thing led to another and it did end up happening. You don't want your parents to know that you're doing that sort of stuff. That lasted throughout the summer and everything, and I did end up breaking up with him. That was hard because I really did care about him and I wanted what was best for both of us, but I knew that being together wasn't it.
She had texted me a couple of weeks before that saying she had broken up, and I was thrilled. I called her, she was thrilled, and she said it was harder than I thought, so I won't want to talk about this for a while.
I broke up with him on Friday, and come Wednesday and Thursday, I thought back to this one time that we were together that I was we may have screwed up. So that Thursday night, I went out to Walgreens and bought a pregnancy test. So I woke up really early on October 9th. I went in the bathroom with my roommate and took the test, and I remember in the pit of my stomach, I knew it was going to be positive. I wouldn't be in this situation I would have even been taking it if I didn't think it was going to be positive, but I didn't want to admit that. I turned it over, and there were 2 lines. It was a positive test. I remember just being oh no. That was all that really went through my head. I didn't know what to do.
Well, a couple of weeks went by and she said, hey, are you guys going to be home tonight? And she's like, well, I just want to talk to you. Well, the Cubs were going to be playing the Cardinals in the first game of a playoff, and so I got home. She goes, well, I'm DVRing the game because I really want to seriously talk and not be distracted. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't think I can sit through an entire baseball game with this on my heart.
And I had a nice meal prepared, and she kept saying, I don't know if I'm going to eat. I'm not going to eat. I'm just so stressed. I said, you're going to eat something because I made this food for you, not knowing what she was going through at the time.
I let the worst case scenario play out in my head of they're going to kick me out, they're going to be so mad at me, I'm going to have to go back to college alone tonight and deal with all of this.
Honestly, we thought she was just going to explain some of the breakup and why it was so hard on her. But she sat on this couch and she just said, well, I'm going to tear the Band-Aid off. She said, it's no beating around the bush.
I broke up with him last week, which you guys already know, and that is not about to change, but I'm pregnant.
Then I thought, okay, she's got to be a nervous wreck having enough guts to tell us that.
And my mom just looked at me and she was like, no, you're not. And my dad, they both just had tears welling up in their eyes, and I was waiting for them to just blow up and be like, you gotta get out. Just get out of here. But they didn't. Next thing I knew, they were walking over and they were hugging me. And we were like, we'll figure this out. We'll get through it. I don't know how, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but we'll figure this out. We're in this together. And that's the best thing that could have happened. Best thing.
We met through mutual friends.
We met at a couple bars, going out a couple times, and
Didn't like him.
then went out to eat.
I gave in to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not too big of a love story. Not too exciting. We had tried on our own for 2 years
Yeah.
with no luck. Negative tests every month.
Unless you're going through it, no one understands. So anytime someone else would get pregnant, you're almost not happy for them because you're trying to do the same thing and failing.
You feel like a failure. And it's not just medical tests, it's a lot of emotional roller coasters.
They're dealing with the grief and loss of not being able to have a child of their own. It's when they kind of healed from that they come to us and decide that adoption is the option.
I was looking at it, we could spend the same amount of money and have a baby that was ours than to go through a bunch of tests and insemination and in vitro and not have it work.
We kind of hid it from a lot of people for a while, and so you're going through it by yourselves. Talking with Jody at Hillcrest and through Chelsea Stream Foundation, you start talking to other couples who are going through the same thing, and you realize that, you know, you can't have too many people love a child.
Literally right after telling them and breaking the news, I was like, I already have a plan. I already kind of know what I want to do. I just need to make it happen, and I think it's all going to be okay.
I first received an email from Melissa just stating that she found herself in a predicament and she wasn't quite sure how or what she needed to do next.
October 8th, I was living my life, just normal, being a normal college student. Come October 10th, the day after I found out, I was living that exact same life, but everything had changed. I knew I was gonna eventually have to tell people. People were shocked. I was not that person. Like, they didn't think that that's who I was. So it was eye-opening to see how proud people were of the plan that I had ahead of me, but it was also hard. After I decided on adoption, my next step was to start looking for families, and I was working with Hillcrest Family Services, and at one point I came into the office and she had me look through a bunch of different profiles of adoptive couples that they have for birth mothers to pick. And there was a couple of families that did stand out, and one of them was Travis and Heidi.
So we did interview Heidi and Travis. Loved them.
I wanted these parents to be able to give this baby what I wish I could give him or her. Travis and Heidi fit that.
And once we sat down and got to know her and Loras and Tammy, things just kind of started clicking.
We just kind of started to develop a relationship.
I will be forever grateful that she let me go to every one of those doctor's appointments.
And we got to meet her parents and sister and future brother-in-law, and she got to meet our parents. So it was, you know, during those 4 or 5 months we were able to kind of bond as a larger family.
When my due date started getting closer, I was out of school and I was living at home again, just to kind of prepare myself for this whole physical and emotional thing I was going to have to go through.
It could be
Any
tonight or it could be 2 or 3 weeks from now.
You lay in bed and you think, oh my, are we ready for this?
When I was like getting ready for bed, my back started to hurt. So I looked it up online, and it said that like back labor could be when you don't actually like feel anything where the baby's at.
And about 1:30, Tammy said, Melissa wants you to come in here. So I went in and she said, could this be contractions? And we're like, I don't know.
And I said, if you want, call the hospital or talk to a nurse. And they said to come on, get in here. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
When I was actually in labor, I did end up deciding that this is something that if Heidi missed out on, I would be mad at myself in the future. Like, this is something she deserves to be a part of.
I don't think I walked down that hall any faster without running. I was really excited.
When Zoe finally did come into the world at 5:37 on June 14th, my mom was there, Heidi was there, and it was beautiful.
I got to cut her cord. From what we understand, that usually doesn't happen in adoptions. We could never prepare for that. I mean, that'll be the closest thing that I get to having go through that myself.
On the last day that I was in the hospital, I made sure I woke up early, and I went down to the nursery and got Zoe, and I just sat with her for a little while. And at the time, none of the emotions were there, but I let it all sink in that I wasn't taking her home, and she was gonna have an amazing life. And I just rocked her and held her and told her all of that, and she'll know it. And I'm glad I had that time, but it was a hard day.
The day that Melissa left the hospital, that I think every single person in that room will remember for the rest of their lives.
All of a sudden Travis and Heidi came. Well, Travis came in and he said, oh, Heidi's in the bathroom. Well, what we didn't realize, she was in there putting herself back together. They were both having a hard time realizing how tough a day it was going to be for
Melissa.
Melissa
First.
Yeah.
They never thought of themselves. They're like, we just feel so bad for poor Melissa.
Yeah.
You want to help her. I felt bad because I was the one that was walking into the hospital in no pain and not having to change my body, and I was going to walk out with that baby and she wasn't. How do you get overly excited about that?
I was so happy for them, for Travis and Heidi, to have this little baby girl that they were going to be taking home. But at the same time, it was like, this was my baby girl for a time. They can't imagine themselves in my shoes, and I can't imagine what they must have been feeling either.
It was emotional on all different grounds, sad tears, happy tears, but there wasn't a dry eye.
Everybody in the room was crying like a baby, except the baby.
Yep.
It was pretty amazing.
For Heidi's line, I'm not going to say
There's no goodbyes.
goodbye, it's see you later.
Yeah.
I
'Cause she
remember
said,
that.
We're all
She's
gonna
like,
stay together. We're all gonna see each
you
other.
later.
But it's moments like those adoptions that I wish more people would see.
Today, I'm doing really well, but I do have my bad days, and I think the hardest thing about doing this whole adoption thing is that your life changes completely, and then it snaps back to exactly where it was before all of it happened. So when I came back to school in the fall, I had the exact life I had before, but I was a different person trying to live it.
I always tell people I'm not proud of how she got into this situation,
Exactly.
but I'm proud of how she handled it.
She
Because
did.
she handled it like a champ.
Like she said, I feel a little different now from all of my schoolmates. I'm like, well, yeah, you've gone through a little bit more than what they've gone through.
What stood out to me as much different is her family support.
I realized that I was extremely lucky. I am so grateful to have had the perfect circumstances that I had. A lot of people don't have that. They get into this situation and don't know what to do. That's why there's people like me out there, I think, to be able to help you get through it and to figure out your resources, figure out what your choices are.
I hope you don't ever have to go through this, but if you do, give us a call. We'll give you any advice we can and help you out through it, because been there, done that, and it's working out.
Having this amazing relationship with Travis and Heidi, and knowing that not only would she have amazing parents, but I would get to see those amazing parents in action and see her growing up.
For Zoe, it will probably be better for her. there's no hiding anything, there's no resentment, there's no, when she turns 18, trying to find her mother or her birth father or, you know, them not wanting to have that relationship with her. It's always there. This is her norm. She's gonna grow up knowing this, and this is what's normal to her.
She won't feel different from people. It'll just be her story.
It's so empowering to see so many people love this child.
Zoe needs her, we need her. I think we're in this together.
I made this mistake, and looking back now, it's not a mistake. It was meant to happen. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And people say that, but you never really know the truth of it until you're living it. No, Zoe was not meant to grow up with me as her mom or him as her dad. And no, him and I were not meant to be together, but we were meant to come together so that she would be here. It's all been worth it. Seeing what's come out of it and knowing what's ahead makes it worth it.